I can't remember where I met Ralph.
Very swiftly, I pulled into the seat.
Pull up into the seat. See you, Leon. It wasn't his fat cat. No.
No, I'll tell you where it was, Jeremy. We'll go back to 1976, 77.
That's when I first got here.
And you were the guest host of the Lions Miss Personality Quest at the Old Lion Hotel.
Oh, I do remember.
Because Noel O'Connor, who was forever the man, was transferred to TVW7 in Perth.
Right.
And I was the floor manager of the Miss Personality Quest. And you were at 5DN doing... I think you were doing 9 to noon or 8 a.m. to noon at the time. And so you couldn't be there for the first part of the rehearsals, and I was the Jeremy Cordeaux stand-in. I did very well at standing in for people. And I had you down to a T, I got to say. And so then you arrived and you took your mark, and then I was vanquished back into the history of time. Originally, I studied with Vaughan Harvey at the Vaughan Harvey School of Broadcasting, and I learned everything that there was to learn about voice and things, and Noel O'Connor was my mentor, and my first professional job on air was as a mute pussycat. So did I waste my money?
No. But you were a great success as a mute pussycat.
Well, the thing is, nobody knew it was you, and you were never allowed to say anything. And in the history of the cat, there were 4 cats, and the very original cat was Barry Devonish, who was brilliant. He was an ex-Channel 9 ballet dancer and came to Adelaide from Melbourne and met Dee Dee James, and Dee Dee James was a great name. As a matter of fact, Dee Dee was the #1 replacement for Winky Dink when Wendy Patching went to England to do things.
I remember Winky Dink.
Yeah. And then I took over from Baz, and I was the longest serving of the cats. And when people say, you used to put me to bed when I was little, and I say I still provide the service on a more personal basis, but I'm not sure if that's politically correct.
Well, look, what can you do?
Well, exactly.
You can only do your best.
And then I also tell them that I put more kids to bed than Michael Jackson, but I'm not sure if that's too soon either. Are you allowed to say that now?
Well, look, this is the Wild West.
Oh, well, it
Ralph.
is. Well,
there are no rules.
Okay, good.
No
and
rules
only last week we had Boys to Men in Adelaide, the singing group, and Michael Jackson was distraught when he found out that they were a singing group and not a delivery service in Calabasas.
Oh, for God's sake.
Okay. All right, enough of that.
Enough of that.
Now you know why I was a mute cat.
Well, no, you would have gotten into trouble, particularly in the children's hour, I would have imagined.
Well, I was a bit concerned when Channel 9 changed from the Channel 9ers to Come On Kids, but, that's a Rolf Harris thing.
Whose idea was it to invite this man?
So that's where we met, Jeremy, to get back to the point.
Well, Fat Cat would have been an interesting character to play.
I started...
Who invented Fat Cat?
Okay, the cat was invented at TVW7 in Perth.
Yeah.
Because Channel 7 Perth owned SAS Channel 10 in Adelaide back in the day. Yeah. And so you'll recall that SAS Channel 10 changed call signs with ADS. There was ADS 7 and SAS 10. Yep. And there was all that buzzing noise. No,
that was just my telephone.
I was just telling Caroline outside. My bank manager rang me this morning, and he said, "Do you realize you're overdrawn?" And I said, "Do I ring you when I have money in the bank?" and he said, "Are you worried?"
I never thought about that.
Well, and he said, "Are you worried about it?" And I said, "Are you?" He said, "I'm very worried about it." I said, "Great. Why should we both be worried about it?" That was this morning. Anyways, then Melanie George, who was the daughter of the producer Murray George, took on the cat. And see, Perth had a character called Percy Penguin, who was much more popular than Fat Cat was. So 7 in Perth sent the cat to Adelaide, and the original Fat Cat was a grey sort of looking character. When I say grey, not ill grey, but the suit was grey, and he had green pants. And then it was redesigned by Ray Washington's Toy Town back in the day, and that's when the cat became orange. The same week that Australia went to colour, which was 1975, March the 1st, 1975. And that date stands out in history because Ike and Tina Turner performed at Apollo Stadium that night.
You had a good memory.
Well, I got to be good at something, Jeremy. So I know where the bodies are buried. So I can tell you all about what happened back then. And so the Cat became so popular in Adelaide, the national show was created, Fat Cat and Friends. So the Cat was on air, was around Australia for about 2 hours a day, every day, in most capital city markets.
So we had Humphrey Bear on 9.
Correct.
And Fat Cat was Channel 7.
Originally 10, which became 7. I know it was all very confusing.
That was very confusing. Yeah. I was involved in a little bit of that. I never knew whether I was sort of what T-shirt to wear.
Well, exactly.
It's very strange.
Arthur or Martha. Well, snip, snip, cut, and Bob's your auntie. But there you go.
Check out Ralph's shirt pocket, signed by Roy Orbison.
Oh,
what's that? Show me. Oh, my God. Yeah, he signed that.
Yeah.
I love Roy Orbison.
Well, he spoke well of you.
Oh, look, I never got the opportunity to talk to him.
Seriously?
No, in a lot of years.
Fortunately, knew Roy very, very well. And so I was much too young to have been an Orbison fan. And when I was in high school, all my mates were listening to Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. Yeah. And I was listening to Orbison. And they go, well, and I had older brothers and sisters. So I got to meet Roy in 1972, and I spoke to him the week before he died. He played in just outside of Cleveland, Ohio, and my sister lives in Cleveland, so we got her 2 tickets to go see Roy at that final concert that he did on the 4th of December, 1988.
There's no hint that he was ill or anything?
Well, Roy had a quadruple bypass in 1980. Yeah. And the only vice that he had was smoking. He just could not give the gaffs away.
What a wonderful voice! He could have sung opera with that voice.
Well, here's Tom Jones at 84. He's going to be touring Australia next year. He's going to be in Adelaide on March 26. And guys like Frank Sinatra would say to Orbison and Tom Jones, you just can't keep singing like this because you're going to blow a lung out. And Sinatra's gone. Tom Jones is still as good as ever, probably better. And Roy was just getting not his chops back. He always had his chops, but he was getting his audience back. Yeah. And he was inducted into the Rock Hall of Fame in 87. And that same year, he did the famous Black and White Night film for Cinemax. Did you ever see the Black and White Night?
No.
His backing band was Elvis's backing band. So James Burton on lead guitar, Ronnie Tutt was on drums, Alex Acuna was on percussion, Jerry Sheff on bass.
Well, this was back in the Jordanaires day, I guess.
Yeah, those were all the guys from the Jordanaires. Yeah. But then the first lead guitar was Bruce Springsteen. Second lead guitar was Elvis Costello. Tom Waits was on piano.
Wow.
The backing singers were Jennifer Warren, Katie Lang.
Golly.
And
that's kind of all-star stuff.
Yeah, it was. And it was only played live to 200 people, shot on film. And they've just brought out a 30th anniversary edition of it where Cinemax did the whole thing. And it was shot in black and white, and it was just the most, and Orbison was just on song, and Springsteen was great. He'd be sitting there just looking at Roy as Roy was hitting these notes, and Roy hardly ever opened his mouth when he sang. It was just where it came from, nobody knows. And afterwards, Springsteen said, I don't get it. I don't get it. And he was the guy that inducted Roy into the Rock Hall of Fame. So if you listen to the Born to Run album, there's one of his tracks where he sings Thunder Road. I want to sing like Roy Orbison, but only Roy can sing like Roy. But I want to sing for you only. And Roy just thought that was the greatest tribute. So he wanted Springsteen to do whatever he could do with Springsteen. Yeah. And his last studio album, Mystery Girl, was produced by Jeff Lynne, and it was done for who's our guy with Virgin Airways? Virgin.
Yeah, I know who you mean. Richard Branson.
Yeah, Richard Branson. Yeah. Well, Richard Branson said, has anybody got a contract with this guy, Orbison? And nobody had a contract. So he said, well, let's go get him. And so the title track on the album, Mystery Girl, She's a Mystery to Me, was written by Bono from U2. And Bono just wanted to meet Orbison in the worst way. And I used to be able to, I used to drive these guys around when they were in Adelaide, but when they found out that I was a friend of Orbison, I just had carte blanche. So I just tell them Orbison stories, some of the crazy places and crazy things we did when I was living in the U.S.
I love the way Roy Orbison could walk out on the stage and the way he did it. The black suit, white shirt, black tie, black glasses, and he would just stand there. There was his only gimmick was his voice, his sound.
Yep.
So straight and so absolutely different.
He said about 3.5 words for the whole show, sang 22 songs, walked off, and people just went out blown away.
Well, the dark glasses came from where?
It was John Lennon. In 1963, Roy was the headline act in the UK. And back in the day in the UK, the head act was first. Yeah. And then because it was cold in England, and so the minor stars were the last ones on the bill. So most people had gone home by then, you see. Right. And so Roy was due out, and he'd left his regular glasses on the airplane. And so the promoter came out and said, Roy, I got a problem. The guys that follow you out, they don't want to follow you out. He said, who follows me out? They said, the Beatles. And he said, what's a Beatle? And John Lennon came out and said, I am. And he said, he said, well, look, I don't care. You can come out first. He said, I don't have my glasses. And he said, what's that? He said, they're my sunglasses. He said, put them on. And he went, okay. And he put them on. And it was just such a hit.
Never took them off.
And so then he did use a very white pancakes makeup so that it really was a contrast. And so that really made him look even more pasty. And so just that was all he did, was put on his, pancake, and the sunnies left him on, and the rest is history.
Well, I had to have an eye operation going back a couple of weeks.
Right.
And we do a little thing on Facebook in the garage. Mm. And I couldn't stand the light, so I put on my sunglasses.
Sure.
And Andy tells me that we jumped inexplicably 10,000 people, and Andy said to me, "Well, go on wearing the sunglasses. They seem to like you wearing the sunglasses." You did say that, didn't you? Do you think I should?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because that means you're cool.
Oh, I don't know that I'm ever going to be cool.
Hey, who cares?
Well, I'll go with that.
Hey, seriously, look what it did for Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles. They were right up there. I gave Stevie Wonder a cheese grater for Christmas one year, and he said it was the most violent book he'd ever read. Yeah.
Listen, you're quite an act, You should have your own show.
Well, I had a fringe show with my good friend Steve Davis. We'd done 2 fringe shows, and it was called Two Cats on a Hot Fringe Roof. And it was a huge hit. And I was going to do one next year, but I'm going to save it now. And my new show is going to be called Unwoke Unplugged. Yeah. And if I haven't offended you in the first 5 minutes, wait 6. Yeah.
Oh, you haven't really been trying.
Well, seriously. And, I just love it because I am so culturally diverse. My father was Muslim and my mother was a Catholic Jew.
Right.
And it was impossible going to church.
Did that work?
Well, no, it did, but we could never find a synagogue where the altar faced east. And so for all of those reasons, we couldn't do anything.
He should be on radio. His own show.
No, they're keeping me away.
Oh, look, they keep all the most interesting people away.
Well, I did do breakfast at 5MU for a couple of years.
Oh, yes.
And I had a partner then, Ken Burgess, and we were called the Fun Doctors. And so we would inject some humor in your morning. Mm. And back then, that was Gulf War I. My family car was a 1959 left-hand drive pink Cadillac, which was stolen, incidentally, never to be seen or heard from again.
A bit conspicuous to steal a car like that.
Look, I've got to tell you, I was parked at the Sturt Footy Club because I used to DJ there a lot. I did a lot of weddings and functions and things as a DJ. And they said, where is the bridal car going to park when they pick up the bride and groom? I said, well, look, I'll move the pink Cadillac and you can put it there. And they said, there's no pink Cadillac out there. And I went out and there was no pink Cadillac out there. So that was when they still had police at police stations, like Unley Police Station. So I rang Unley Police Station. I said, look, in the last 30 minutes or so, my car's been stolen from the Sturt Footy Club. She said, could you please describe the vehicle? And I said, well, it's a 1959 left-hand drive pink Cadillac. And she said, were there any distinguishing features on the vehicle? To which I said, hang on, I think I have an I Love Roy Orbison bumper sticker on it. Yeah. So that'll keep you from mixing it up with the other pink Cadillacs in town. And she just said, here's your report number. And she hung up. She said, I don't need a smart guy like this on a Saturday night. And about a year and a half later, I got a call from the police at Capalaba in Queensland.
Never heard of it.
And they hadn't heard of you there either, so don't feel bad. And so the inside driver's door panel had been recovered by my friends at Wilshire Motor Trimmers. Have you got a cash register sound? Ka-ching. And Wilshire's had and so the police rang me and said, do you know anything about this car part? And I said, yeah, that's the inside driver's door panel. They said, look, we'll send it back to you. So I rang Shannon's Insurance, and I said, we found a couple of pieces. Would you like them back? And they said, no, you can keep them.
So you reckon it was smashed up?
Well, you can't rebirth a car like that in Australia.
Good God, to be stupid to steal a car so noticeable.
Hey, people have stolen dumber things. And so for all of those reasons, Cadzilla was gone. But
where did you get it?
I got it here in Adelaide, believe it or not.
Was it pink?
Yes, it was at the time. And it had been painted in Mexico. The guy that found it in Mexico and had it painted. And so I used to drive this Cad down to Murray Bridge every morning at 4:30 in the morning to be on air at 6. Yeah. And we went until 10 o'clock. And then Ken and I would go sell radio time. And because we literally bought the show. And Ray Kerr was the manager.
I remember Ray Kerr.
Remember Ray?
Yes.
Yeah. So he took a chance and he loved it. And we did a couple of things that were pretty revolutionary that are still being used now. And so you've got, Cole's in-house radio and Woolies in-house radio. Yeah. Well, we did that at the local Mitre 10 and going aisle to aisle. And we used to, at Myer, when the old Myer was still there, sit in the shop window and do a radio show. And the way they paid us is the various departments would give us commercials that we'd read to say, go to haberdashery and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And it absolutely worked a treat. And so it progressed from there. But, then you start having kids and you build houses and you have to do things that are smart. And so then, you get a job.
Yeah, I know the feeling. But the idea of doing a radio show or having a radio station in a shop, or in other words, having a shop front.
Yes.
So people can actually come and sort of stand in front of you and either try and, I don't know.
Well, I got to tell you, we saw a few things that I wish I had never seen, and people would walk in front of the window and they'd see us there, and because I had speakers facing out so you could hear it in the mall, and you could see them trying to tune their radio to see what station it was that we were on. And of course, it wasn't. It was Fun Doctor's radio, and so that was that. But Meyer loved it, and we did that every year for 5 or 6 years.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, it was wonderful stuff. Something that I learned in Texas.
I remember you calling me. What did you? I was doing the nighttime thing for AA, and you were doing something called Life is a Cabernet.
Life is a Cabernet was my wine touring business.
Well, that's
that I had
clever. Life is a Cabernet.
I did it for 23 years, and it turned into.
Les would love that.
Yeah. Well, because I sold it. I sold it just before COVID. Not that I knew COVID was coming. I was going to retire and work in the U.S. doing the other sort of stuff I do. But my holding company now is called Case Syrah. So you got to keep that whole thing going. And I thought I'd open an Italian restaurant, so I bought the name and registered it called How the Focaccia. And they bought it off me, the name.
Really?
And it's opposite the entertainment center now. The coffee stand by the tram is called How the Focaccia. So that's nothing like a good bad pun.
You've got an incredible brain. An amazing brain.
There aren't a lot of people that would say that I actually have one. I've actually donated my body to the university for when I cark it, so my daughters don't have to pay for a funeral. The uni take care of it as I reach for my wallet, and to prove it,
you are joking, aren't you?
No. Here it is, right here. The Body Donation Program, South Australia. It's the University of Adelaide. And there it is, Ralf Hatzic. When he carks it, ring this number, and they'll pick up the
come
corpse.
pick up the body.
And because I said that I would donate parts, and I'm not sure that there's a lot that they would want to use anymore, because you'd have to put them in formaldehyde, and that could ruin them. So it's all there.
Well, I heard this morning that South Australia is the organ donation capital of the country. We had, I think, 75% of people sign the driver's license.
Well, sure. Well, you take a look. There's the Adelaide Town Hall. Now, you won't find a finer organ than that. And then you've got the Capri Cinema, and they whip that organ out every now and again. And
there are a couple that actually go up and down,
Yeah, but, there is a medication for that. So, not that I need to. But actually, my young daughter saw me out the other day with a girl, and she said, "Dad, aren't you scared of a heart attack?" And I said, "Sweetheart, if she dies, she dies." The girls
Who writes your material?
Hey, I was, this is without a word of a lie, I was a joke writer for Bob Hope.
Really?
Yeah, every time he told a joke, I wrote it down. And so I've kept them. And, there is no such thing as a new joke, Jeremy. It is just recycled gags, Yeah. And because I remember the jokes that I was being told when I was a little kid, and they've just now added, modern sort of things to the whole thing. And, we don't get the comedians that we used to.
No.
I'm not big on using four-letter words in comedy. I don't think you need to do that. It's this shock value. It doesn't shock me anymore. And you look at the clever guys, and I grew up seeing guys like Milton Berle and Victor Borge. And my mom was German, and so to learn English, she used to watch the talkback shows, or television talkback at the time. Yeah. And so I saw guys like Mike Douglas, Merv Griffin when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. I fell in love with Marx Brothers and things like that. And as a 17, 18-year-old starting at SAS Channel 10, my first gig there was the film librarian. And I got a telegram. The day I finished high school, I went to Blackfriars. And there's another waste of money for my poor dad, who did everything he could to get me a good education.
And you haven't lost your American accent, though.
Well, I was born in Australia, but I didn't speak English when I left here. My dad was Yugoslav and Mum was German.
Right.
So we didn't really speak English at home at all. So it was only when I got to a primary school in Cleveland that we spoke English, or with my brothers or whatever else. So my brother got to the U.S., well, with me. I was 3, he was 7, and he came back 2 years before me, and he doesn't have a big American accent at all. But I did go back to America for a number of years after the Channel 10, the Fat Cat gig. And then I married a Texan for 28 years. And so, women are husband deaf at the best of times.
Oh, yes,
but if they can't understand your accent, apologies. But and so for all of those reasons, and the interesting thing with my marriage too is my former Texan bride, her parents were married for 28 years, and they divorced, and he married the neighbor. And lo and behold,
that happens, I believe.
I was married for 28 years,
and
we
you married the neighbor.
And no, she married the neighbor. And I said, "You know what I really miss? I miss him because he was great. He was a great drinking partner. Sven. I mean, those days are gone.
Sven,
yeah. And the poor guy. And this is a word of a lie. 2 days before her 60th birthday, he had a heart attack and died in the marital bed. And I said, I'm so glad I didn't get back together with her, because that could have been me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Let's not dwell on that. Let's go back to the comics.
Okay, that was comical. I thought, well, maybe I need to have some more compassion.
No, I'm too close to the end to find humor in it. No, years ago, I had the opportunity to talk to Jack Benny.
Oh, Fabulous.
Yeah. And he was quiet sort of fellow. Reflective,
Yes,
I guess is a better way of putting it. And I said, how long have you been in the business? And it was something at the time like 60 years or something. And he explained to me that it took him 40 years to learn how to walk out on a stage.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, gee, I must be in something like kindergarten, because I take the point, that it takes an awful long time to get that poise and that, how he used to be able to just look.
Stand there and he
would just
do
look.
the hand motion to his chin.
Yeah.
And just,
And brilliantly funny.
Yeah.
And you'd have to laugh at it. And it looked so effortless.
Yep.
But it took him so long to get to that standard.
Do you know how much easier it was for me in a catsuit? Because straight away you lost. Have you ever been to a costume party? Most parties you go to, you have to sort of work up to conversation and things. When you go to a costume party, all of the inhibitions are gone.
Yeah.
Because you're not you. So as the cat got away with tremendous things, tremendously dreadful things. I'll share a story. This is so great. This is how the reason I got the job as the cat, I was the cameraman. She's showing us the clock.
Yeah.
That means
they bring out the clock and show it to me just to remind me every once in a while that
that reminds me of another story about France, but I can't go into that one now. I was the cameraman on Early Birds, and I was Jane Riley's first ever cameraman. And when she finished at 5AA, I was her last ever interview, and that was at the Central Market. And I actually brought Fat Cat's pants with me and put them on to say, no, he did have pants. Because people said, didn't you get banned because you didn't have pants? Or weren't you a drug dealer? And didn't you? No.
Well, Donald Duck never had pants.
Well, no, he didn't. And so he never got into the same strife. But there I was, and Baz didn't turn up this morning, and it was essential for Early Birds, because it was a live show, that the cat be there. So we just locked off the camera, wide shot, a monitor each side. I put the suit on, and we made sure that we didn't step out of shot, right? And Baz, for whatever reason, had a few mornings where he couldn't get there, and so I would do that. And one day the general manager came down to see me to tell me off about something.
Mm-hmm. And they do that.
They do.
They do that.
They just feel they have to be there.
Yeah.
And so we heard he's coming down from the loft, and because the GM was at that end of the building, he had to come down the 8 steps into the studio and whatever. So I quickly took the suit off and had my floor manager's outfit on. We were in a commercial break, and he said, "And I want to see you," and such as, and I said, "Yes, sir, yeah, Mr. McKenzie." Oh, 1 minute to air, Mr. McKenzie. And off he went. And so I ran around the back, put the cat suit back on. And so we're there live to air, and he comes back down again, and he sees there's nobody behind the camera, and there's the cat. And when it went to the commercial break, he walked up to the cat and looked into the cat's eyes and said, "I know you're in there. My office, 9:05." And it was like... how they spoke to the cat was just ridiculous. So we did have a newsreader at Channel 10 at one stage who was known for his hairpiece.
Oh, yes, I know who you mean.
Okay, and so he had 3 hairpieces. Sinatra had numerous hairpieces. He had one that looked like he just had his hair cut, another one where it looked like he'd been caught in a bit of a breeze, and the other one saying, "It's about time you got a haircut."
Yeah.
Right? So we used to record Fat Cat and Friends late at night. And when I say late at night, at 7:30 in the evening.
Yeah.
And we'd been live to air at 7 in the morning. So it was a long day. And so the cat would go out after Cracker Jack and maybe have a bowl of milk with a couple of friends at the Hackney Hotel, which has been known to happen. Yeah. Studio 3 at the Hackney Hotel. So the cat's getting ready to go downstairs to do the Fat Cat and Friends. And the newsreader had his scripts, and he's walking, just reading his scripts because we didn't have porta prompts then. Mm-hmm. And the cat walked past, grabbed his hairpiece, and went that way. And and then he flicked it back behind him, and off he went. Well, in the morning, the general manager said to me at 9:10, "Hatzic, in my office." So I come into his office, and as the door shuts, there's the newsreader behind the door with his arm folded, being very stern. And he said, Ralph, if this ever happens again, I said, sir, you have to talk to the cat. It's got nothing to do with me. He said, get Fat Cat in here now. So I put the suit back on, and the cat came in, and he said, Fat Cat, sit down. And the cat sat down. And, said, and the newsreader goes, yeah. And then the
leave
cat,
my hair alone.
Yeah. And so the cat sort of walked out, very sheepish and apologetic and whatever else. I thought, they really believe the cat's real. Yeah. That's great. And that's why nobody knew that.
It took a personality,
that Ralf Hatzic was the cat. And so that was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And that's why I resigned and went to the U.S. and did other things.
That hotel ain't there anymore. And I think it is.
The Anatole.
The scaffolding is...
Oh, you mean the Hackney?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The original bit's there. And that's a Hurley project. So they're building... Because Mark Prosciutto had the pub part. And, and so he was partnered up with Peter Hurley, who's a very clever man.
He is a very clever man. We've invited him on the show, as a matter of fact. But
I'm surprised he's not here.
Well, he hasn't fitted us in yet.
Oh, okay. Well, he's a busy man.
I know he's busy.
Yeah. So, the Hackney will come back in. Sort of like the Tivoli came back, but it never worked again. It had the apartments behind it, and it never quite worked.
No, I must admit, there's a great big development there, and it kind of looks like a little...
Doesn't quite work.
No,
but what I love is they have the strip club pole position next to the salvo, so you can sin and go have forgiveness straight away afterwards. Isn't that great? But I will leave you with a thought, because I know you're running out of time. You and I were introduced quite some time back when 5DN, you were looking for a producer. Yeah. And I had a life-size cutout of Jeremy Cordeaux from some insurance thing that you did.
Oh,
and I put my demo
JM
tape.
Insurance, I think it
and
was.
I stuck my reel-to-reel tape of stuff on there, and I had a jar of Keen's mustard, and I said, I'm as keen as mustard to do this for you. And I didn't get the gig. So for all of those reasons,
I probably wasn't even consulted.
All that trouble finding who would find a life-size cutout. I went to Scammell's Auctions to find that.
My God, somebody sold it. I don't have it. No, I don't have it. A life-size cutout of me. I don't think I want it.
She uses it regularly.
It would have been Marty. It would have been Marty Smith who.
It was Marty Smith, as a matter of fact.
Chose all the producers.
And because every now and again a producer, because I did actually panel for Jay Walton a few times when Jay Walton used to do a segment on DN.
Yes.
She had a show, you might remember, A Touch of Arrogance.
Elegance.
Elegance. Because we used to call it A Crutch of Elephants. But Jay loved me because I was multilingual and my name was spelled Ralph, R-A-L-F. And so she would say, gentlemen, this is a gentleman. This is Rolf. He speaks various languaries. So for all of those reasons. So
she was a character. She was a character.
Jay was great. Jay was great. There's no question.
Very determined. She wanted a television show. She got a television show. She wanted a magazine. She got a magazine.
Yeah.
Just nothing would stand in her way.
In the mafia, we would have called her a toe cutter.
Now, listen, my friend, a great joy to see you and have you at the dining room table.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I've really enjoyed myself.
You got to come back.
Well, I'm always around.
Ralf Hatzic, ladies and gentlemen.